Hello and welcome back to another episode of the book club, and more specifically, the pairing. We're on chapter 3, one chapter this week, but as I said last episode, hopefully you enjoyed it, hopefully you're back, hopefully you may be reading along or have read the pairing. But exciting stuff. And as I said last week, we don't kind of know how this one's going to be structured this week. We're kind of just going based off vibes. And this week, I had a really busy week. I only really read a chapter and I was like, hey, there's still a lot in this chapter to talk about. Like, this book is really interesting. It brings up a lot of, interesting points. This one I feel like I'm going to structure it. I love saying, I'm going to structure it like I don't wing literally everything, but we'll kind of be moving through from the bits I circled and the stuff I want to talk about. We're doing the chapter Bordeaux to, in case, because there's no real, chapter 12, there's no, number. It's just kind of oh, that's what chapter we're on. So we'll be doing that chapter today, which is exciting. The overall vibes of this chapter was really sweet and really cute. It started out, and I got a little bit scared because we started out with, a heap of wine talk, and I was like, I don't actually know a lot about what's going on. We're talking about Vinny. We're talking about a lot of things that just, aren't in my ball house. And I love it how Theo was talking so much about how, this is their realm. Wine makes me feel confident and powerful. I know what I'm talking about, this thing, and I'm just sitting there thinking, this makes me feel dumb and stupid because I get it, and I relate to Theo. I think everyone does. When you get to talk about things, when you get to get involved with things, when you're learning about something you're interested in, things come easier to you and you can really enjoy it. And then when there's things that are way out of your depth, you're like, actually, maybe I'd rather not, possibly. So I was sitting there, I was like, I don't know what's going on, but luckily it isn't the most consuming part of the book. It's still, about the relationships. It's just there, which is still it doesn't take me out of it or anything, which is good. It's enough that a person that doesn't, I think Casey did a good job writing it for people who wouldn't know what's going on. And even if it is a bit wine, France, Europe heavy, you still kind of get what's going on. There's nothing that's really too out of control there. But we will get into it and we will flick towards the first. So we're just going to kind of, I circled certain paragraphs and I just flicked through it because I read it over the last couple of days. I just lost my bookmark, fell on the floor. Great job, me. But I read it over the last couple of days and I was like, I went back over them and I was like, okay, what bits do I want to talk about in each one? But because I feel like the reading is fun and we want to keep some of that, but then we'll kind of just talk about kind of my thoughts about it. Not exactly because again, I just want to talk through why the structure I'm choosing. But we did the whole, I would be oh, this leads to this, read, this leads to that, read. But I kind of just want to do you kind of know where we are. I'll talk about bits just generally from to catch us up possibly, but I just want to read my bits and then be hey, let's talk about this and why I think it was actually interesting. I catch Kit craning his neck, admiring the sun through the leaves overhead. He's wearing washed out linen. His mouth is soft and happy, parted with wonder. A vision of yes, no, yes courses through me. Kit has always encountered the world with a pure, wholehearted eagerness to be amazed. A cool rock, a dog in a park, a song in a shopping mall, the rolling grounds of the 18th century chateau. My first instinct, the thing I learned before I could find France on a map, is how to love how Kit loves. Then there's the miserable ordeal of everything else. But after that comes the second yes. I'm going to try to be his friend. I think there's a couple of bits in this that I think is really interesting. This is the first, and we talk about this yes, no, yes sort of thing a couple of times. I think it's really interesting of a way to frame and describe a something I want to do, pulled back, and then no, I'm going to try it. I love that's coupled with doing the, and then like how Kit loves, I think is, they're both connected and not connected in a way, but I love a yes, no, yes. For when it first popped up, I was like a yes, no, yes. Oh, are we deciding to like make a move on him? And then I was like, whoa, no, it's way too soon for that. But I think, yeah, I've never heard someone describe it as that. But I think it's a really fun, like I would just call it like apprehension. That's the way I would do it. But I love a yes, no, yes, when you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this. And then you go, the apprehension sets in, you're kind of like, reasoning and thought, and you go, oh, and then I think the third yes is really interesting because it can come out in so many different ways. It can be, courage and bravery, like rationalizing why you could do things. It can be, foolery, bit of fool, your ego. It's just that last yes can be powered by so many things. I just love this little like yes, no, yes, and they're like, I don't know, interesting, like I guess like in a way psychology behind what drives the second yes to power over that first no, because the first no is so strong in life where you stop wanting to do things so often, and a lot of people don't go over that first no sometimes. So even learning the phrase of a yes, no, yes, I feel like can get you over a yes, no. Do you know what I mean? I'm deep diving on this tiny little thing for no reason, but again, it's my book club. I'll do what I want, but I don't know. It's just it's such an interesting little piece to me. Just like having that knowledge of like, oh, we always can have that second yes. That having that to power over that first, and I think, Theo is kind of a triumph of the yes, no, yes, because they've been in no for so long about going and taking this tour and going on it, and a lot of things after breaking up with with Kit the first time, getting the bus, trying to become a sommelier, going on this. There's been a lot of no's, and they've like constantly been throwing these second yeses out to actually make it. And this other part I thought was so like, I understand, and it's just a crazy like, I learned before I could find France on a map is to love how Kit loves. Then there's the miserable ordeal of everything else. And the way I take that is like, this person, I take it in two ways. The passion of Kit and the way he sees the world, views the world, and loves things is so like vibrant, full of, taste, flavor, everything is full. He appreciates this, and learning to view the world like he does is like amazing. And then going back to the way you do things hurts. And then there's the way of without Kit, you stop realizing that. So there's two different ways. I think sometimes you can be with, in this instance, like a partner, and once you lose that partner, you lose their kind of viewpoint on things, which I think is really sad, because I think even in, even horrible relationships, but even in just like general ones where you drift away from, good people, bad people, there's always things to be taken. And I think in this one, like Kit's not like a horrible person, but like you'd want to take and learn the way that he loves. But also there's that kind of dynamic of, I think everyone would know, you always have some people, like some certain friends that have that kind of like always cheery disposition, and that does not mean that they do not struggle with things or anything like that. But there's some people I feel like in everyone's lives that you're like, how do they love things so much? Like, how do they keep that energy, keep that absolute passion going for so many different things? And then when you're not thinking through their viewpoint, you like go on your own and you like feel bad about the way you view things. So it's kind of, some of Casey's writing is just like so, they're just like small things, but I'm sent into this like area of like, oh, I want to overanalyze the absolute fuck out of this, and I have been loving it so much. So on to our next little circle. This is just going to be me bloody analyzing tiny little bits that I love so much. Okay. Baguette husband gets a twinkle in his eye and says, "Not yet, maybe," and nudges us to the last open table like we're two fourth graders with a crush. The worst part is, we were. Once. He's 18 years behind. We flower our table in silence, and I rifle uselessly through my brain for something to say. Everyone else is laughing and chatting with their table partner, flicking flour at each other or trying to recall the instructions, while Kit and I are pointedly not having a cute time. The problem is, we've only ever been something or nothing to each other. I don't know how to... The problem is we've only ever been everything or nothing to each other. I don't know how to start being something to him. It's always going to be a couple of things. You know what I mean? It's always going to be a couple of things with this. I think that's really... It's a hard thing in both a relationship term, but I think anything term. The worst part is we were something once. Like, he's 18 years behind. I think the time passing of like certain things is really like difficult in relationships. I would say more. Never been in a relationship, so don't know. So I'm gonna say my piece, even though I can't experience from that side. But more so with friends for me. But that kind of like, you know, even people you have like certain like moments with, you know, flings with small amounts of time, that is hard. But I think like really good friends too is a hard thing. Like, oh, we were something, like we had a lot at one point. And that's just like such a hard thing to reckon with like later in life, especially when you're starting to, you know, see them more, or like they come back into your life and you have to deal with the fact that like you're not where you were at one stage in life. And that I love it how it's like we were everything or nothing, learn how to be something, which I think is like beautiful, like to just be, you're not the all-consuming everything of, you know, the relationship, and you're not, you know, distant and nothing, you're just something, like you're just a piece of their life. I feel like I've gone through this in a way. Like I had a best friend. How old am I now? Probably like 10 years ago, around like those years of my life. We were like inseparable. We did everything together for like a good, probably like 5 years, maybe from like 13 to like 16, you know, 12 to 17, probably 13 to 17. And we were just like absolutely inseparable, did everything. And then I feel like, you know, as we were growing up and growing apart, we just like sort of drifted and nothing ever happened. And, you know, it's one of those things where it's fine and like you only hope for the best for them. And I feel like I didn't see them. We might have seen each other like at things, but, you know, they moved to, you know, we did different things in life. It's just like one of those things. And now I see them, you know, every now and then. And I should see them more, to be fair. It's on me and it's a on him sort of deal, but that's just like how that's life. But every time I see him, it's one of those things where you're like, oh, time hasn't passed. Like it feels like time hasn't passed. Like you're so like, you go back to these old ways where you're like, oh, like when, you know, we were like that, we were everything to each other. Well, you'd hope. I would have considered that. I can't speak for another person, you know, in a best friend sort of way, at least in my position. And then you're like, oh, you know, you fall into those habits and you're like, oh no, but like now we're just like, you know, friends. We're like having a good time, but we go back to our lives. It's this weird thing of like, oh, we're not, you know, messaging constantly, or, oh, that's not the person I will go to do this, even though when you're with them, you're like, oh, like, that's the person, and then you realize, oh, no, it's not, they're just a something now, and that sounds so, like, reductive, like, oh, they're just a something, you know, a great something, but they're not an everything. It's such the actual, like, bits in this this chapter have just like really captured me in such a good way. I've been really enjoying like the writing, and like these certain bits that I circled have just like scratched an itch, really like gotten into my head, and I've been thinking about them from the past couple of days. I think there might be one more, but they were two of the big ones where I was like, oh, thoughts are going wild. I think the other ones can be a bit more like fun and lighthearted, and maybe we'll talk more about. But I think I was going to say more about the book, but I think a good book really instills your thoughts about it and then your own life. So this becomes like, this is going to be like a book club podcast, but I feel like, I don't know, it's so fun to take what they have and then go with it and move with that and use it to talk about what you know. I really like some of these. Anywho, he's carrying a crate of grapes on one muscular shoulder, straining the fabric of his dusty white shirt. Suspenders hang around his hips, apparently shrugged off to allow full range of motion for cinematic deadlifting. Salute, Florian says, wiping his face with a gloved hand. Soil streaks his cheeks. Gosh, welcome. On pure reflex, my head snaps towards Kit. His does the same, and our eyes meet in the raised eyebrow look of unspoken agreement that we used to share in moments like this. He's hot. We turn away just as fast. I think that like perfectly goes back to the, been everything to each other, to something. They jumped straight back into like old habits, and I think you couldn't not do it with someone like that who you spend so much time with over your life. But I just love that they instinctually know like that's what they do. They like appreciate, attractive. It's such a cute thing, but I think to learn they are something to each other and not everything, they have to indulge in these moments. I feel like when they look, that you can't look away because you've got to enjoy these moments. Some things can do this with each other. Some things can agree these people are hot. You know what I mean? Like we can be like, oh, that's like this funny, blah, blah, blah. So I love that's that's something that they instinctually did. And I think and I love that it's kind of building that to play into it in the future. Like they will get back to like the ways in which they were close with each other more. We see it like obviously with the Moulin Rouge bit, we see it more and more a bit every chapter, how sometimes they fall back into it and sometimes they catch themselves doing it and they're like, no, like this is not us, even though it should be. I circled this bit, and I think I'm going to just skip straight to the next one because I think it was just, if not more interesting. It's just about this Florian character serving them wine at lunch. Also, I was reading this it was too late in the day. It was too late in the night. It was like 11:20 or 11:40, and I decided that for some reason I was like, oh, I need to get my washing done for the next couple of days. I had no shorts or socks, and I needed them, for gym and like running and blah blah blah. So I was like, oh, I've got to do it. I got to get it done. I need to wash my work uniform, and so I was like reading to wait for my washing to be done. And they're talking about this 1,000,000-course dinner and meal. And I was like, absolutely shut the fuck up. I was like, I was starving. And it was like the way they were describing, Casey was describing the food, or therefore Theo describing the food. I was like, don't, because I am sitting here. It is way too late at night. I cannot have a full snack, or full meal, because I will not go to sleep easily. Oh, it was killing me. This time, when Florian holds the bottle over Kit's glass, Kit loosens one of his shoulders and tilts his head to the side. He slips Florian I hate that word, languid smile, letting the sunlight glide the ridges of his jaw and throat. Oh, that's someone I haven't met before. The sex god. I think there's like something, I think one of the funniest things about Kit is I do, jury's still out whether Kit knows how hot he is. You know what I mean? / if he's as hot as Theo makes him out to be. But I think he is, since Maxine was like, oh no, he like slept with a bazillion people, which is like, go him. That is no shaming there. That is absolute like slut positive. Like, you go, like, I'm calling you a whore in the best way possible. You know what I mean? It's not non-derogatory. I love that he just like slutted it up in fucking baking school. I think that's the best thing ever. Just like everyone and anyone who bloody if they had a baguette or a croissant, it did not matter. He was smashing. Sorry, I've lost my mind. Anywho, but the fact that he's like, oh, we don't know if he knows he's hot or not, because he knows how to work it, but also the way Theo describes it is he is so effortlessly like charming and hot all the time. So it's one of those things where I'm like, do they know? Because people that are hot sometimes don't know they're hot, and it's disgusting. You're like, no, like, I know what's wrong with me. You know, obviously knowing what's wrong with you is usually a thing that you think more than other people would. But like, there are some people that are just like, I feel like they just live their lives and they don't know that they could be a fucking like model. You know what I mean? There's like some people that just like, I'm like, you need to be on like a cover of a magazine or something. I'm like, you're just like, you look like that. I was like, oh my God. There's that quote from Mary and George. Yeah, and when Mary's like, if I looked like you, I'd rule the fucking world or something like that. I'm like, that just, it's funny and it comes to mind. But at the end of like them talking to each other, you know, catching up a bit, we just get, it's just like it was a beautifully written, it was such a relaxing chapter in parts while they're eating. I feel like both a lot was happening and nothing was happening in the best way possible. I loved how like, I really felt like I was there, like on their like sort of picnic lunch and just like with like this hot guy serving wine. I was very just like, oh, I can really feel I'm there. I felt the warmth of it. It goes like that for the rest of lunch. Kitten, Florian and me, we mop up the fig jam and honey and melon drippings with our bread, ask for refills until we've lost count, make Florian laugh and blush, turn our mouths purple. I smile at Kit, Kit smiles at me, and every time we hold our glasses together, every time the lip of... Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Do you know when when you have a sneeze coming and you're like, no, I can hold it. Usually sometimes I'll be like, I'll cut it out and be like, oh, you know, it didn't happen. I don't sneeze. Not like you hear me sniffle literally. If you watch any of my videos all the way through it, all I do is make unconscious sounds. But we'll leave that one in because it was funny. I don't know. Sometimes I'll like watch myself because I know what's happening, and I'll watch like to see if my face is like, so in editing I'll get some like satisfaction. I'll be like, oh my God, he's like he's going to sneeze. Or sometimes you're like, whoa, that came out of nowhere. I don't know. And every time we hold our glasses together, every time the lip of his glass almost touches the lip of mine, I try not to think, this is the closest we'll ever come to kissing again. Well, we know that's not true, but I love it how they like, first of all, I'm trying not to think about kissing him, even though you're directly thinking about kissing him, and B, we know that's not going to happen, but I can't wait until we kind of get into a sort of like, oh, they're back. I can't wait to the first moment, and I wonder like how it's going to be. Are they going to regret it? I love that, you know, the slow build. A piece of hair falls in his eyes, and he pushes it back with the eraser of his pencil. That motion, the way the rubber skids across his brow, I'd forgotten, but I remember it now. Kit the Ex never does that in my head, but Kit in real life did when I knew him, and this Kit does too. As far as I know, there are two ways to get over someone. Surrender to the anger that's already there, or invent something to get angry about. Sometimes it was always wrong, and the only thing to do is stop believing it was good to love them in spite of it. But sometimes they were good to you. Sometimes you go looking for kindlings and find that green leaves won't burn, that the garden was watered too well. Sometimes you have to rearrange the truth into something you won't miss. And sometimes, when enough time goes by, it gets hard to remember which one you did. That paragraph I thought was unbelievably fantastic. Just the way, the pen, Casey. Oh my God. I'm like speechless. There's something about it that I just love so much, like surrender to the anger that's already there, invent something to get angry about. But like, sometimes they are good. What Taylor Swift song? There's like, there's like a lyric, and sorry to bring up a random Taylor Swift song that I can't even remember which one it is, but it's just like, it was like, but oh, you hurt them too, like, oh, you had good time, like, it's this very one that's like talking about, oh, there's always that, there's always that anger that you had, but there's always like the good times. Also, there's two sides. Also, it's not both you. And I think this encapsulates it so much well here as well. It's just like, oh, but sometimes it was like they were good to you. And sometimes that is like a thing that you do miss. And I just love that it's like sometimes you have to rearrange the truth into something you won't miss, like completely lying and gaslighting to yourselves, to saying how bad it was, to be like, oh, I don't admit, something that everyone does, and is such a interesting way of, really not being truthful to yourself, to completely bury this. I think this is why probably therapy is a great thing, because of, to work through these emotions is so important, because I feel like when you do have to rearrange the truth or lie to yourself into something you won't miss, I feel like you somewhat lose a part of how special something could be, and a lot of things that you were and learnt from those moments. Because like, I don't know, I think working through certain events and certain rough things and hard moments in your life is good, because at least you can kind of keep what you needed from that. You know what I mean? There's, so much that goes on in certain times and relationships in your life, and it's unbearably hard to get through. But to misconstrue it and throw it around and jumble it, you don't get to remember everything about it, and everything about it made you who you are and who you will be continuing to be, and want to grow from there. So I think it's really important to work through that sort of those are important parts of time to I don't know, that's kind of my philosophy on it. There's certain times where you do have to to lie to yourself, but I think it's it's such a certain events need to be remembered, and they need to be able to access the memory as they are, so you will know, for the future, you can't, you learn from your mistakes. I think is such a huge and important part. I think for me, in my mind for things that, sometimes lying to yourself is that thing of like, oh, I won't really be able to actually learn from this, and I will make the same mistake, which I think is, a lot of people can make the same mistake a lot because they never learned the first time, because they never allowed themselves to learn from the first mistake, because they're like, and it's easy to do, and I've done it a million times, but you can blame other things for it. And I think we are going to go down that line with Theo, because everything so far has been Kit did this, Kit left, Kit wanted to do this, and that's the way they remember it, and that's fine, because that is what it is to them. But I don't think they've unpacked the real truth of it, which is why. And we left Kit, we blocked Kit instantly, no time for, learning about it and moving through it properly and figuring out what was going on. And maybe there was more to it, and then I feel like that's such an important bit, so I can't wait to kind of unfold and go back into these memories to actually see what's going on and actually work through it for once. But that is the rest of the chapter. They went out for drinks. Theo talked more about, their business and what they've been doing, and Kit has been really interested, and they talk about Theo's family, and it was really, sweet to just see them catching up. And then they see Florian, I'm pretty sure it was Florian, on a cafe across the street, and they're like, oh, we should go flirt. Because everyone from the tour is flirting. Well, they didn't even say they want to go flirt. They're like, let's go try and fuck Florian. Let's see who can do it. And then they've somewhat proposed a fuck fest. What did they say? Oh, there was a word. Oh no, I lost my page. Bordeaux. We need to get to the last. I swear they used a word, and I was like, what the actual hell? I was like, I did not think you guys would. Oh no, am I already losing my place? Yes, I think so. This is why I can't. Okay, we've got to the last thing. Define hookup. You want to do a body count competition. Okay, that wasn't as good as I thought. I'm so sorry. I wasted your seconds there. I thought they literally proposed a fuck fest, or like a fuckathon, or like a fucketition. Oh, that wasn't as good. A sexetition? A competition for sex. I thought it was really funny that they're going to, I don't know. I feel like that's the most compensating way for not dealing with their feelings with each other of, oh, let's just go have so much sex with other people and then compare. And then at one point Theo was like, after talking about this with Kit, I really do need to have sex with someone. I'm like, this is a lot, because you're getting so horny, you're talking to your, I'm like, you guys need to figure this out, because I get it, you're both, I don't know, attracted to each other, have all that history. You'll need to work on this, because this is not, I think, a healthy outlet. Having heaps of sex is fine, great, absolutely love it. As we said, whores we love. But I don't think this is, for you two in this current second, is the thing that we want to go to, because that's how we're dealing with our newfound friendship. I don't know. I think it's really funny, and it's going to lead them to having sex with each other. They need to both get another person off the list. They have sex with people in the next 3 countries, and then the last one, it gets the last day, they don't have it, and they're like, well, we've had 6 bottles of wine. Maybe we could, still get the last person to have sex with, because we could have sex with each other. And then they do that, and then blah, blah, blah. And then we continue, which actually kind of sounds like a fun plot. So maybe I'm not going to knock it. But for now, that is the next chapter. That was Bordeaux. Let me know what you think of these chapters, these little bits I read out. I think they're so fun and interesting, and I love just getting to really nitpick, deep dive, dissect, and go into, because it's really enjoyable. But for now, I hope y'all are having a great day and have enjoyed, and I hope to see you in the next one.